would it be super crazy to sit there and say
Matt Rhule jumps?
Yeah, Matt Rhule jumps. He's a Penn State guy. I mean, through and through, that's his team. I mean, that's the hot thing in college football now.
What would, to answer your question, because I kind of knew where you were going with this. Yeah, I would, man. And this maybe is a hot take. And like I said, we're speaking hypothetically here about this, but like, I honestly think though, I love, and I have had to complete, and I'm a stubborn fucking person. I was born in May. I'm a bullhead about shit, but like, he has really changed my mind about who he is and what I've seen in the last couple months about the recruiting he's done here in Nebraska. And yeah, it's easy. You could say, well, you're from Nebraska. It's easy to get on board, right? No, I'm super critical of him. Man, he's done a great job. And I guess to answer your question more than anything here is like, I don't see him staying here for a long time. Do I think he's going to turn the program around? Yeah, actually I do. Now, there's not a lot of ways you can go from going, we've only won, 16, 17 games in 4 years. I think he does get us up to that. Say he gets to a 9-10 win season, right? And he does compete for, let's say in 2 years, he's competing for a Big Ten title, right? I could see him definitely jumping. And that's no knock on him. I get it. He's not a Nebraska guy. He's not from here. I'm not saying he doesn't care about Nebraska or believe in Nebraska. It's just me. Yeah. And he did say, I remember his first interview, he rooted for Penn State growing up and all that. James Franklin's kind of been up in the air. He's done a great job at Penn State, but he hasn't brought him to the promised land, right? I could see Matt Rhule, hypothetically, maybe in a couple of years, we go back on this podcast and look at this and us talking about it. And I think you kind of agree with this, Christian, if I'm not wrong, but like you could kind of see him bringing Nebraska up. And he's been, Matt Rhule, that's kind of his history, taking, not good teams and taking them relevant and bringing them up to the Big Ten title, whatever title game, Big 12, back with Baylor and all that. And then kind of like, hey, you know what, man, I'm looking for something new, and I'm going to go a lot of coaches want to coach at their alma mater. I mean, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. That's kind of college football's narrative nowadays with coaching. Mm-hmm. I could see him doing that. I know. I don't know did he graduate from Penn State? I guess you probably have more info on that, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure where he graduated from, but like, I know he did say Penn State was his team growing up. And I understand.
Yeah, he did graduate from Penn State. I remember that because he said he played there and he talked about the history there. And that was part of his introductory press conference at Nebraska. Listen, I know how this is going to go. When we clip this, we put this as a clip on YouTube and you get this far in the video. I know the first thing that Nebraska fans are going to want to say, and that is, he just took over. Why are we talking?
You have no
We
faith.
haven't even won a game yet, right? Yeah, and look, I get that. I understand that. This isn't trying to put the cart before the horse. I just don't give a shit, okay? I'm telling you what's probably going to happen. If I had a crystal ball right here, this is exactly what's going to happen, okay? I could see this happening more so than I could see anything else happening, right? If you think about it, right? Josh Heupel, if Josh Heupel, if over at Tennessee, who would get Josh Heupel?
Oklahoma.
In a similar situation. The only reason he would ever leave, in my opinion, the only reason he would ever leave Tennessee would be to go to Oklahoma, right? Yep. His alma mater.
Yep.
And they would have to pay him some more money too, obviously. It's not going to be a cheap thing. So money talks, and I think loyalties talk as well. So
for sure. But Christian, I'll throw it back to you to interject here, but like, yeah. If you graduated, let's say you graduated from Georgia, right? Like Kirby Smart did. Mm-hmm. You went to Bama and you won multiple national titles as the coordinator and all this bullshit, right? And they offered you to say, mm-hmm. Hey, come back. You know what I mean? You would too. I mean, that's no different in your high school. We're high school guys, but I mean, you would too, right? I mean, that's your home. That's your people essentially. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get that. I would never be mad at Matt Rhule if this does happen. And I actually, I hate to say this, I kind of hope it happens because that would make Nebraska, for me as a fan of Nebraska, relevant again, right? I'm okay with that. I get it. I understand that as a fan. I understand that. And I would agree with you. A lot of Nebraska fans are going to chime in and be like, oh, you have no faith. Maybe he really, truly loves Nebraska. And maybe he does. But I'm just saying, like, if we do get to that point, I 100% agree. I just always kind of had that feeling like with him since we hired him, he's good at turning programs around. He's got to get his name relevant again, right, in college football because he's been out of it for a few years. He was at Carolina with the Panthers. Didn't do so hot, right? They got rid of him. He's still getting paid a shit ton of money, by the way. That is something I think that, hey, I want to end up back at Penn State. And I get it, man. I'm not going to argue that point. I know you're not arguing with me, but like that's something I would understand if I was in his shoes, essentially.